Morning, guys.
Good morning.
All right, we are off to the races. We have a special guest this time. Mike, we actually talked about this one a while ago, just around G2 talent. At some point, because I think we addressed this almost in every episode, but it actually is a central theme of very few. So I'm excited to sort of dig into this. And then our star of the show, Lisa, who we brought to Carson specifically to help us address not just this question, but also create ongoing value for these sellers that are joining the platform and trying to create a better environment for their G2 go forward.
Yeah,
so super excited.
This is an important one too. And I think the reason we brought it up a while ago is because whether you are an acquirer who is going out and doing purchases, right? The G2 is very important. It's a difficult problem to solve. Or if you're on the sell side, you think about selling, knowing what makes you the most valuable in terms of how successful your G2s are and what team you have in place today. Or if your sale is 10 years off from now, what can I build and add in? It's important on both sides. So I think whether you're on the buy side or the sell side, this type of conversation is applicable, which is important.
Yeah, I mean, if growth, especially organic growth, is like the secret weapon that is the most critical, this is like 1B. This is just as critical, maybe a little bit less when it comes to valuation, but far more critical when it goes to the success of the transaction go forward.
Well, and the reason for that is because your organic growth needs to continue post-transaction, and that involves your G2s, right? Especially if you as a seller plan to retire at any point, right? You need to have that team to continue the growth. And the more you can show that, hey, this growth rate that I've built up, that's fantastic. That's the reason for the buyer giving a higher multiple is going to continue. And here's why, because of the team I've built.
Yeah. And we actually have a G2 to talk about it. So Lisa, I feel like before you introduce yourself, we have to address what's going on with Mike's face right now.
I wondered if we were going to address it. Yes. So I don't usually sport the mustache. I can't decide. My wife says I can't keep it after November, but supporting Movember this month, a lot of us gentlemen around Carson love to support the cause. It's fantastic. And so drawing attention through the mustache to raise awareness for men's health, right? That can be all sorts of things, men's mental health, physical health. So my, thing is go see a doctor. If you're a man, sometimes that's hard for us to talk about. We don't like to go to the doctor, but go to the doctor. And we've had a lot of experiences here around Carson with younger men who, have gone through things where if they would have gone to the doctor a lot earlier, or thankfully they did go to the doctor to catch things. So, if you're in your 30s, 40s, whatever it is, it's never too early. So that's my 1 minute spiel for support Movember. Men, go to the doctor. And if you want to
get your PSA checked,
crew, go ahead.
That's right.
Yeah.
So we have Greg Johnson right now, who is walking around looking. I told him like a fire captain, and I know my brother-in-law is a fire captain, has an unbelievable mustache. Mike, with you, I'm getting more like 1940s, like early Hollywood golden era. So it looks good. I think maybe you need to tell Hannah like this is going to stick around for a little while.
I'll take that. She said if I wear the cowboy hat 100% of the time, and we buy the ranch, and I'm a rancher, that I can keep it. She goes, but besides that, it's got to go.
All right.
So there's potential.
There's potential. That's exactly what I heard.
There's a dream of mine. There we go.
All right, Lisa, will you introduce yourself? Tell us just who you are in a nutshell, and then let's dig into your background because this one's unique.
Yeah, I'd love to. I don't know how I'm supposed to follow the mustache, but thank you.
I don't think anybody follows the mustache.
Yeah. So my name is Lisa VanArsdale. I am newer to Carson as of about, 8-9 weeks now, but it has been the most incredible onboarding and journey to get started. So before I started at Carson, I was an advisor. So I was a part of a family practice here in the Chicago suburbs. My mom and a business partner of hers had started it when I was in high school. So I really got to see the first blush of building a CRM and how do you build a document imaging system, but also the nitty gritty of stuffing all the holiday cards and sending out birthday cards, right? And how we needed to build that traction from the very beginning. I did leave, go play college volleyball, come back day after graduation, started at the firm. And so I think the entry point that they allowed me to have is something that I speak to all the time about having the open and the freedom to just see all the different avenues of a wealth management practice in an advisory firm, right? Did I want to focus on investments and meeting with all the wholesalers? Did I want to focus on operations and making things more efficient? Did I want to focus on marketing and client communication? What we found out really quickly is we had a small team, which meant you wore all the hats. So the reason why I had to learn all those things was because that was all the roles and responsibilities of being an entrepreneur. So in 2015, I would say her previous business partner moved and went on her own. And so that really formulated our partnership and starting our firm together, which was just a dream, right? Like getting to work with your mom, who is also your best friend and your role model and your mentor. Couldn't have asked for a better journey through that. What I'm now realizing, stepping back from it a smidge, it's all we did. And right, we thought we were having the best time and it was so fun, but we did it 7 days a week. We did it all day, all night, because we loved it. And my aunt worked for us, my best friend since 6th grade, opened every account we ever had, did all of our rollovers. And so it was we loved coming to work every day, but we weren't realizing that we weren't doing all the other things that life also has to offer. And so there's no
PTO from your mom or your aunt. Yeah,
absolutely not. I mean, I tried to take a sick day once and the text I got back was bring your pillow. So, that was kind of our culture, and it was great, but we had a really great team. And so that led into building what we could. We had bought 3 practices over time. So that was kind of our growth strategy. That really set us up for organic growth out like that we couldn't control. The referrals and the great people that we had, we just wanted to service them well. And that's what we found out is the better we serviced our existing clients, the happier they were, the more they referred. And it was a really great place to be. So we've always had really strong coaches and mentors that kind of sat us down and said, but what's the path here, right? Like, what is the trajectory and what's your 3-year, 5-year, 10-year plan? And without saying her age, because she would probably kill me, knowing she's probably also still watching this.
I would hope so.
What was her path to retirement? And I knew very transparently, I was never going to be able to do my job and her job. And I think that's going to be a bigger concern for G2s as they come through the mix. If you grow a really great practice, how do you have the support in place to be able to sustain that? And I would say our growth was probably a little too fast, that we didn't have the succession behind me ready to go. So we had to really take a look at what did we like doing best. Well, that was meeting with our clients, spending the most time we could with them. So we found, similar to what Carson Wealth is doing now, which just wasn't an option when we were out looking, was we actually sold our firm to a RIA and became wholly owned under them, because they were going to be able to support us from an operational standpoint, an HR standpoint. And for us, it was really appealing to have somebody say, we're going to help you find great talent and do it. Now, does that always come into play how you think it is? Probably not, right? And so asking, I know we'll get into a little bit about the sales side, but the due diligence and the fact finding is huge. But from my perspective, so we did that at the end of 2022. We fulfilled our commitment through May of this year. And it did not take long for the Carson team to figure out I was a free agent, and just the excitement about this new role that they were building. Kelsey is a fantastic leader. I'm so blessed to be under her team as the Chief Talent Officer for Carson Wealth. And what we're doing to have somebody on the team dedicated solely to the next gen development, structure, support, guidance. It's such a crucial part of where Carson's journey is, of what we need for the future, that I'm just excited for the opportunity to be able to tackle this and work along the great talent that's already here at Carson to really have something shine and be a differentiator in our industry for sure.
Yeah, we are so excited about it. And I get 2 things, sneak peek. I think we're talking right now, maybe next month, we're hoping for a holiday episode to have Kelsey and Alex Rodeweg on, because this approach to talent management and integration, we have started to hear from sellers, is a little bit unique, that we bring C-suite talent in to help them manage the integration process, the transition process, and most importantly, start having those conversations with staff and G2 up front. That's to stabilize the business. Now, where I think you're going to be so impactful to us is, okay, transition's 28 days. What happens on day 29? And for those G2 talent, how do they really explode out of the gate? So we'll get into that in just a sec. Mike, one other thought, just as we were hearing Lisa go through her background, we should tackle at some point why inorganic growth can be a fuel for organic growth. Because I think what she just touched on is not how a lot of people think about it. They think you do one or the other, but most of the time when folks are selling a business, especially a financial advisor, where it's an individual sale to another individual, it's not a big brokered process like what Lisa and her mother did or what we're seeing coming in. There's an upgrade in service offering to the end client. And when the client experiences that greater suite of services and much better talent with somebody like Lisa, they're more willing to refer business, and that adds to the fuel that you were talking about, Lisa. So I think we should talk about that at some point.
Yeah. And Lisa, I'd be curious. So when we're going through, there's kind of this life cycle that I see for a lot of advisors. And that life cycle is starting the firm. You're in that grind phase. You're getting your initial swath of clients. You're growing. And what I've seen is the profile of a successful advisor who builds a good business is someone who does know how to organically grow. You have to get through that phase. You have to be able to be a good grower, bring on those new clients, work with those clients. But then as the firm starts to grow, more and more of the time of that advisor is taken up by being a business owner instead of being a really good advisor. And so as they start to look towards the next phase, which is a potential sale, whether that be to the G2, whether that be to someone external, in my opinion, the best buyer for that is someone that can come in and say, hey, we really want to allow you to go back to what you were doing in the beginning, being a really good growth-minded advisor. But more importantly, we want you to pass on those traits to your next gen advisors. So hopefully from a buyer's perspective, we can take off a lot of the things on your plate that were more business owner type of things, HR, bookkeeping, running the P&L, and those sort of items, and say, hey, for all of us to be successful, for you and your growth earnouts and everything for your firm to be successful, we want to allow you to go back to doing what you did really well before your firm expanded and you had to start being the business owner. So when I think of that, I think of it in both ways. Michael, to your point, if you are in that growth phase where you are doing your own acquisitions, you have to think of what is your business prop? How am I going to go tell another advisor they should come and join me? Well, that might be just it, right? I have the capacity to be your business operations. You're kind of at a pivotal point, advisor. You can go build the business and go hire and be more of the manager. Or if you want to keep focusing on being an advisor, come over here. We have this already built out. We have this firm that runs that way. And that way you can go back to doing what you love to do, probably what you're best at. And again, that sets up the firm to have really good, strong, growth-minded advisors. And it provides that solution, both for what the main advisor is looking for, what G2s are looking for. It gives them that person to learn from and lean on. Lisa, is any of that applicable as you're starting to look at these G2s, or in your experience, what you went through with you and your mom, for what that G2 is looking for?
Yeah, I think it's all great points. There's a piece of the advisor world, and like you go to conferences and it's all this competitive nature of, well, how many assets do you have and how many households do you have? And I think it's like this chase to always be better and bigger. And then there is always a tipping point. And I've had many, many advisors like sit me down and say, be careful and be like cautious of when that point comes where you move your way up and up and up and up, and then you actually are taking yourself out of what your passion is, right? So if your passion is meeting with clients and helping them develop their financial plans and that one-on-one basis, is your passion really, like I had always said, if I have to pick one more health insurance plan for our 3 employees and how much effort we put into, are we going to cover their premiums and how are we going to budget for this? And not that I didn't love the entrepreneurial side of that was very exciting, but when you really strip down to choosing what you want to spend your day on and where your unique ability is and what you're passionate for, right? Sometimes it's okay. And that's what I'm hopeful that by my story and by coming to Carson, I can share this with the G2s of, we don't need to all shove ourselves into being this puzzle fixture box to make this great entrepreneur. If you really are a really great friend, like taking care of your clients was our number one thing, right? Your team is your client, they're number one. Your clients are important. The rest of it if that's your passion, then be the business leader, like be the manager of the business. Like there's other like roles you can play within an advisory firm that tie to that. But if your truth and passion is around advising people and bringing in new clients or servicing or being a really great servicing advisor, let's all just stop saying we need to own the business and have all these extra responsibilities, because I think they find out they get there and then they're too far out of what they really, and they lose their passion and their excitement for it. So
Yeah.
I'm right. Part of my bigger hope for all of this is that we really can have these one-on-one conversations with advisors in their career paths and in their trajectory to figure out where they fit and where they have the best passion. Sometimes it's somebody that, right, like we were in office, and I've been very transparent with all the Carson advisors I met with. We had referrals out the wazoo. I've never once made a cold call, right? And like there's older advisors or more experienced and wisdom advisors that will say, then how did you earn it, right? And I'm like, trust me, the processes that we built, the service that we did, it looks different. And so part of it is also bridging the gap between the previous generation that was brought into this and did it one way versus how the next generation is going to do it differently. And so, right, being able to have somebody that they can go to support them to be a part of that journey and bridge that gap between them and their leader. Sometimes you just need to be able to have the talking points to go through it. So I think that'll be an interesting dynamic as we kind of shift of, these are really big businesses that already exist. They're not starting at zero. They're walking into a book with clients that need help in servicing, and they're here to help support the advisors. They're not, some are, don't get me wrong, have growth trajectories and are out there prospecting and at the golf outings and at the charity events and working on those prospecting initiatives. But some are retention. If we lose sight of retention and only focus on growth, we're going to be in a world of hurt in a couple of years.
Yeah, Lisa, I mean, that is the beauty of this business, right? Is there are so many different ways to be successful. And that's why most of these folks went independent and left a captive channel to begin with. I mean, we have advisors that are growing because they have a laser focus on federal employees. We have advisors that are growing that don't do any marketing and is 100% referral based. And we have advisors that are still doing seminars and love it, and they just want to do that. And if it's working for them, that's terrific. I mean, there are many different superpowers that really successful ensemble practices have, and it's nurturing the right folks and making sure they're in the right seat on the right bus, and that's how you get that organic growth that will strip away or outperform the market. So I do have a question for you, just because you've gone through the process. What was your mindset or reaction to hearing your mom talk about going through a sale? Because I think there are a lot of G1 advisors that freak out about the G2 not being in a position to buy, and it's cataclysmic to them, and it may not be cataclysmic to the G2, but I'm really interested to hear your perception.
Yeah, and for full transparency, because I'm an open book, so I have no issue sharing what our structure was. Starting in 2015, I had actually started to purchase the book from my mom. And so I had done it in a strategic way of, we wanted really passionately to be business partners in 50-50 in this. And so while I joked about the fact I never got a family discount and I paid street value, I did do it over time where I bought 20%, I bought 20%, I bought 10. So by the time we got to this decision, we were really at that 50-50 decision making. But you're right, we had different benefits and pathways through this transaction,
Sure.
right? She was very much at a point where whether she's going to retire or slow down or do something else or focus on other passions, like that's still TBD. But for me, I knew I wasn't done, right? So when we were analyzing firms, it was a really big question for me about what is it like after the sale, right? What would my role be? We bring in other advisors. Am I still an advisor? Am I doing more of like this passion of coaching and developing and sharing best practices? We had a coaching program with another advisor who's a really good friend of ours, where we helped them advisors how to elevate, endure, and encourage, right? Because we just felt like that was something that was missing. So this has always been a passion of mine to help other advisors get there. But for my mom, I think, right, that conversation of something has to change if we want a life, if we want to be able to see our other family members, if like my path of life and family and things are about to also change, right? It wouldn't have been feasible at the path that we were going. So it was and sometimes I would think like that's where third parties are great, especially if you're family and it's really close. Sometimes consulting with like, you guys or any mentor, coaches, like bring in all you can bring in. I would say like this transaction was not something we did alone, between accountants, attorneys, mentors. Like we had everybody we could kind of help support us on this journey. So we had very different avenues, but that conversation, to your point, if you're a G2, and this is what we have to be very careful about, they may have unspoken or spokenly decided they want that role. They want to buy the business. They want to be the entrepreneur. So my advice from a G1 standpoint is you have to be transparent in this. If this is something you're going down, this is not one that you want to just be, oops, I decided this, and oh, by the way, we're doing this, and I never even brought it up.
We're closing in 30 days. Yeah.
I think that's really tough. I think if you and again, I would always put it in the sense of your clients. And so your clients have built relationships with these people. You want these people to be around. What I always understood, right? Our clients chose to work with us because it was my mom and myself and our wonderful team. Did they necessarily really care who we were affiliated with? They wanted the technology to work. They wanted to know we had the resources. They wanted to know we had a really good investment team. Like there were parts of it that they cared about, but at the end of the day, what mattered was who they spoke to on a daily basis. So you have got to be very transparent and clear communications with the advisors and your team members on your staff before you go down this road of potentially selling your business. Because I think it's just and what does the journey look like for them, right? Like ask those questions when you're doing the due diligence of will my team be okay? Do you envision growing the team, shrinking the team? Like there's different. We did a lot of vetting in a lot of different places, and a lot of them had very different answers, which made those decisions, like we were much easier to say who we didn't want to sell to than who we did.
Yeah. And it's that's a great point about the team too. I mean, one of the things I am most passionate about is seeing the expanded opportunity for folks that are coming from a relatively small, in many cases, family business, but in any way, a more cloistered business, come into a larger ecosystem like Carson and have a chance to shine and take on additional responsibility, whether that's leading integration projects, whether that's taking on an expanded role on our investment team, or somebody as high powered as you coming in and helping lead G2 initiatives. I mean, it's really neat to see the transaction solve more than monetary concerns, which is, Mike, your point earlier about what is the problem that we're trying to solve. And then there are all these other solutions that lead to these ancillary benefits that are so exciting. Lisa, the point about making sure the clients understand who they're doing business with too. I mean, there was a quote that came through my head from a past life, especially when you're talking with wirehouse or captive advisors, like clients are doing business with the name behind the door, not necessarily the name on the door. They don't care that it's Merrill Lynch or Morgan Stanley or whoever it might be. Is Lisa still going to be there? And if Lisa's still there, fine. Send me the DocuSign. I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
What
so
I think
go ahead, Mike.
To that point real quick, Michael, I think that's spot on and so true. And so from a buyer's perspective, if you are the buyer, I think that is why it is critical. To your point, that next generation advisor has something in their head of what they want their future career to look like. And to your point, some might say, I want that more founder type of lifestyle. I want to be managing everything. I like more of the CEO type of role. I might not just want to work and continue to be an amazing advisor. Some say, no, I want to I am so passionate about helping my clients and bringing on new clients and helping them that might be their role. But from a buyer's perspective, you need to know which one it is. And you need to know
what they're motivated by, Mike. Not just the desire, but is it compensation? Is it feeling empowered as an equity owner? Is it recognition? There are a lot of things that motivate those individuals.
Is it decision making? Is it what type of decisions am I still going to have control over for my local office versus what now does the buyer control? Yeah. It's all of those things. And it's having those really important conversations because, from an acquirer standpoint, you want this to succeed. And not every deal is going to look a little bit different in terms of the team that is there, what their motivations are, what success means to the owner versus the next gen advisor. I think far too often the acquirer just focuses on what's the ideal outcome for the main owner without any regard for, okay, well, what about everyone else who's going to be carrying this firm forward after that main advisor retires, or even not even full retirement, but as they start to step out of certain day-to-day activities.
And I think if we're constantly trying to look, and this is where I love Carson's well ahead of the game here and super passionate about solving this issue, but like we still have a shortage problem coming our way, right? I've talked about it many times.
Doesn't matter how you're absolutely right. Like there's no immediate solve.
And so how do we solve what some of those barriers to entry are? And so when you have a G2 that wants to be really passionate about being an advisor, and they're at a firm where they're looking at it and saying, I can't financially be that person. So if somebody has done a really good job, and this is where I always said with our situation, my mom killed herself to get to this point, right? Like she crushed it. She took risks. She took time. And for me to sit there and say she shouldn't be rewarded for that because I was scared about what the price tag was or what that would look like, right? Even to go 50, I just mentally could not do the check for 50. I was like, we've got to do this over time. I did 20, 20, 10 because again, it was more, and I still looked at those numbers and I said, am I going to be able to eat? There's an education piece for these G2s to really understand. I think where we struggle with the industry still, and not necessarily a Carson issue, but an industry issue, is they see all of the great rewards, but they're not all really willing to take the high risks. And that's okay. And I wish we would just be like transparent and say like, that's great. You don't have to anymore. Back in the day, there was not these solutions to be able to have these other options. Now you do. Now you can have the reward. You can have a great comp structure, right? Like you're rewarded for new business, you're rewarded for closing business, for servicing business, and the upward potential is there, but you didn't have to necessarily take that gut feeling risk of, I'm going to buy this practice. What if the market goes down? Or I'm going to buy this practice, and what if I don't have it in me to be able to succeed and grow and do all these things? So to me, I feel like
what if I lose clients?
Right. And so we're solving that. One of those problems about barriers to entry in this industry is we're trying to get more to be accepting of taking on these roles as we have a shortage. So that's really exciting to me because I think we can look at people and say, also within the setup here at like Carson Wealth, like you can go on maternity leave if you're an advisor because we have support, like we have the advisor support network. We have
you can actually take a sick day now, Lisa.
Right. Well, I don't think Kelsey's approved.
See, we still make you bring the pellet. Right. Yeah.
Well, I think more often than not, Lisa, if you're in a room full of G2 advisors and you asked, how many of you would love to buy the firm and buy out your owner and be the owner, majority of hands would go up.
Exactly.
I think the important next question is the why. Okay. So what intrigues you about being that buyer? Because you'll get a few different answers. I think one might be, I love the lifestyle that advisor lives. I think that's really kind of what I want to do. And that might be how their work life is and what that might look like. Most of the time it's probably financial, right? And that can be a few things. That can be annual compensation. That could be building up an investment and having an asset that is growing. All of those sorts of things, whether it be what their day-to-day looks like, annual compensation, equity, asset ownership, those are all things that you can solve for in a deal structure. And I think you kind of mentioned this as you guys were kind of looking around. It was, okay, who can provide that type of solution? And you're right. Those type of solutions may not have existed 5-10 years ago. It looked different. Now, depending on what the answer is of the why they want to do that, you can solve for that. You can structure around that and make it look very similar to as if they had bought out without them having to go on and take out that debt or the G1 giving them a discount to be able to afford it, all those sort of aspects.
All right. In the interest of time, we're 30 minutes in. This is a recurring theme, Lisa. Every single episode Mike and I do, we're like, oh, this is going to be like a 35-minute episode, and we're at 55. And Josh or Tori, one of our producers, is telling us to knock it off. So let's talk about Life 2.0 for you here at Carson. Can you give us some background on how Carson found you and how you found Carson, and what attracted you to the role, and what are your immediate plans? How are you going to make a huge impact in the life of our second generation talent?
Yeah.
Easy question for you, right?
Yeah. I mean, I just want to throw up my lovely color-coded roadmap of all the marvelous things that if I could clone myself and get done faster, I would, because it's such an exciting time. So how Carson found me. So we were, when we had our own business, we were affiliated with LPL. And LPL, I will say, was great to me as relationship building. They gave me a lot of opportunities to be on a lot of councils. One of those was the Inclusion Council with Heather Randolph-Carter. And one of them was just our work partnering with LPL. I think we took a different approach to that, which is what I love about Carson, right? We took the approach of we were a part of this firm, their success was our success. So we volunteered and on everything we could. We were really passionate about it. My mom was the head of government relations at one point. I helped build the Independent Advisor Institute, which was their kind of entry program. And so people always say, well, no wonder why you were busy. You guys needed to say no. We didn't know how, because we also made really great friends. Well, some of those friends have now made their way to Carson. Mr. Burt White is one of them. And so talk about like an inspirational leader that I was always gravitated to. I mean, he commands any stage he's on, right? So I have seen him for probably 20 years telling me to be better, do better, be inspired. And so that messaging, he leaves an imprint on people's journeys and hearts. And so when he and Heather made the call originally saying, hey, we know your time is coming up. What are you going to do next? And I was like, take a break. And they were like, no. And I was like, no, really, I am. And they were like, no, you're not.
Like, great. You got 1 week. We'll see you Monday.
Exactly. So took a couple trips out to Omaha, met with the entire executive leadership team. And really what I loved is they took time to understand where my passions fell and where I could be of most use and impact. And so when they helped develop this role for me, there was no saying no. I had this was it for me. And I knew, right, like even if I said I wanted to break, I don't want to break because this is too exciting. So what is ahead and what I'm tasked with, right? So when we think of next gen with the growth within Carson Wealth, it's some of those tougher conversations at first to say, hey, you might have wanted to be the successor. You may have wanted to be the CEO. How do we work through that? What are your passions, right? Where can we help align goals and processes, and what can we do to help support you? Because now you have not just me, not just the business consulting is awesome. You have the advisor support network is great. Like you have so many key and great people, talent within Carson Group and Carson Wealth now to support you. It's really been fun to see and see that come through. So part of it is that next generation of the Carson Wealth offices, right? Part of it is we've made acquisitions. They are now part of our team. The success is across the board though. Every office is now like getting a reminder that they succeed, you succeed, right? We're all on one side here. So some of the easy things that we've done in the last couple of weeks is we've reestablished a monthly best practices call for all advisors to join, right? Once a month, jump on. We're highlighting certain advisors that are doing things really great, having other advisors learn from them. Our first one was last month. Russ Nealand is helping and driving that. So he's doing a great job there. One of my first initiatives to launch was a mentorship program within the Carson Wealth advisors. I couldn't be more thrilled with how that's going, right? So that whole process of why do you want to be a mentee? Why do you want to be a mentor? That's really fulfilling two sides here, right? That's fulfilling the ones who want to learn and grow and be a part of a bigger team and culture, but it's also giving those G1s a great avenue to share their wisdom, right?
Oh, you bet.
Right.
Yeah.
And not just on their own team. And I think that was where I pushed a little hard of like, I want it to be bigger than just, they should have mentors on their own team. They have their own leaders. They have their own managers, right? That's where they're getting their day to day. But have them learn from somebody across the country, or have them learn from somebody in a different client's in like service model, right? Have them broaden their exposure. So that launched about a month ago. So far, I've heard everyone loves their pairings. We can always switch it up, and we'll have more entry points into that as Carson Wealth continues to grow. But we've got a lot coming. I mean, even some things as structured for our associate wealth advisors of like, what's a formal career path? Like, where are you going, right? Like, I think at some point, advisors that are G1s love to have that aspect of I want to mentor, I want to develop, I want to coach, but they also want to grow their business, right? So why are we trying to pull in so many different directions? If there's somebody like me who's here to say, I still want them to do the exercise together, but let me give you all the resources to say, here's a scorecard you analyze yourself. Here's a scorecard your lead advisor is going to analyze you. You guys are going to come together on what the goals are, and then give me the list of where you need support, right? It's no longer the side of, we have a new designation study group rolling out in January. We're going to start with CFPs, but then expand that to other designations and licenses after we pilot test and make sure we run out all the kinks. But right, not just us coming to you and saying, hey, if you want to focus on high net worth, or you want to focus on business exiting, we think you should have this designation or this credential. go get it and like not support you. Like that's not a part of Carson Wealth. Like here you're coming and then you get the behind the next level setup of here's how we're going to help you pay for it. Here's how we're going to help guide you. Here's your network and your community that you're going to feel like you're a part of a bigger landscape, right? So all of those things are just going to continue to propel. Will we still reinvent and revitalize internship programs and entry points for bigger, broader things? Yes. But I'm also equally focused on the great talent that we have today and what's coming and making sure that they feel valued and passionate about their day-to-day before we just focus on the pipelines that need to also come in, because we need both, right? So it's trying to manage kind of the double-edged sword of retention and great talent that we have that just needs to be nurtured and helped and supported. A lot of them know what to do. It's just they don't have the resources. So we're going to solve that. And then the pipeline issue is phase 2, right? Which offices don't have a strong G2 and which ones don't have a G3, right? And where do we need to start that entry point so that we make sure every office, from a client service standpoint, your clients shouldn't feel those like harsh transitions. I don't want any, like my goal would be there's not a Carson client that gets a letter saying your advisor changed and you didn't have time to meet them, know them, build that relationship. It's got to be able to be state of the art. And that's, right. And I've got, like I said, big dreams, big hopes, but we're going to do it and it's going to be awesome.
No, it's so exciting. I mean, we have already heard from sellers in the past that the support of second generation talent at Carson was one of the reasons they chose to move forward with us. That was I thought, more of a skeleton approach. I mean, now we have meat on the bones. So to be able to promote this and talk to this, I think will be a huge attractor. And this will be one of the reasons that we make the finals of more processes than before. And I also can just tell you, being somebody that is out in some of these offices, and obviously I have a very close personal relationship with a lot of these second generation talents and founders. The response has been universally just thrilled, Lisa. I mean, I'm hearing from people, they are so excited that you're there and that there's somebody that's driving this program forward. And the level of engagement is already going up, because for a lot of these talented individuals, it's just having the person that they can talk to and having the person that will connect them with the right people to talk to that are peers of theirs, because they're hungry for that connection inside of the community. So I know you got big dreams, but the impact already has been felt across the ecosystem.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And I think for me, it's right. It's that relatability for somebody that's not too far from probably there.
And credibility too, Lisa. You have the credibility.
Yeah. It has gone through the sale process. It's tough, right? Like it's a mindset change. It's who's making the decisions, right? Like all the things that we've talked about on this call, having somebody that has gone through it to also say, it's great and you'll be okay. And like, trust me, repapering 3,000 accounts was not on my bucket list or like bingo card or whatever you want to call it. But you
guys had 3,000 accounts,
3,000 new account numbers in 90 days. I've lost months of my life.
My brain hurts.
But I think at the end of the day, if you knew the passion was it was better for your clients, we did it, right? Like it didn't really and that's just who I am. I didn't care if I had a lot of sleepless nights because I knew our clients were getting technology and resources and infrastructure that they needed to have. And it was something that while we were doing what we thought was a great job and our clients had great feedback, it wasn't anything negative that caused us to do it. We just knew we could be better, and we could be better with bigger and better support behind us than thinking we should do it all ourselves. And that was just our true decision making. We could have kept going. We could have gone and had a really much longer, further ride. It just would have cost us some other parts of our life that we weren't willing to do. And I think that's okay to admit.
Yeah. And I think there's self-awareness there too, Lisa, that is not common. I mean, to give you full credit, that's not always the case with both second generation talent and these really dynamic G1s that have built something from the ground up. So I commend you for taking that approach and actually having a decision-making process, not just reflexively choosing a solution. So
what I think G2 success is, sometimes just maybe even a bullet point in the pitch deck of an acquirer, if
Yeah.
that, right? Or something that's
Yeah.
not even addressed.
Yeah, you're right.
It's also something that's very easy to just gloss over and be like, yeah, we're really good with that. We help them go. I learn best through case studies. I love case studies. And in Lisa, I think this can only be done by someone who has been through it, like you have. And you're building out the case study of the how. The how we do it, and we're going to highlight it. It's actually going to be one of the major parts of the pitch deck for why you should come to Carson, and it's going to be, this is why it's a success. It's not only your happiness, it's the happiness of everyone that's with your firm, because the sellers care about that. It's a big piece, and sometimes I think it gets glossed over. But if they know that, okay, my needs are getting met, and I'm really happy with the transaction, and oh, by the way, Lisa and everything she's doing, I know my team's going to be taken care of, and they're going to not just kind of stagnate after the sale, they're going to accelerate, they're going to grow, their careers are going to blossom over here. I just think it's extremely important, and it's part of our industry that doesn't get talked about enough when we're going through a transaction.
Agreed.
So, Lisa, in the time we have left, what thoughts would you have for the general listener who is maybe contemplating a transaction? What are the things they should be thinking about when it comes to when we're talking about their talent? And it doesn't, G2 maybe is a loose term, but just any advisors on the team, whether they're minority owners or non-equity owners at all. What are the things they should be thinking about, or how do you start positioning them to be most successful post-sale or post-transaction?
Yeah, I think if you want a successful sale process, you have to be ready to speak about your team almost, if not better than your clients, right? Like there is an aspect to understanding the value that your clients feel connected to the people that are on your team, and the success that, the comfort that, even if through change, right? Change is hard for everybody. So you say, if it's a partner coming to like Carson, fully integrated, wholly owned, whatever we want to call it, I get that's a little different. I'm talking about like if you're changing custodians or you're doing a bigger approach and coming to Carson, I think that's a change that your clients are going to feel. Well, what's going to comfort them is that your team is solid, and that your team is structured, and that your team has the support they need. So for us, we were very transparent to saying, why were we making the switch? Well, a lot of it was because at the end of the day, operationally, our team was going to feel more supported, which meant they were going to have more time for you, right? So I think really honing in on how you present your team to the valuations and to the sellers, and how you want to do that, because that's your greatest asset. Clients will come and go, assets come and go. That your smallest client can become your biggest client really fast, and your biggest client can become a small client really fast. But like that core group of your team who runs the success of your practice, the more you share that it's actually not about you, which it is, but like I think my mom did a great job to say, like, without Lisa, without Christy, without Heidi, like without Kate, like our whole team, it would have crumbled, right? So we made sure that they were also taken care of in the transition, right? So advocate for your team. And so if they're along that process, I just think it makes it a little bit smoother of a transition for their support to be on, because you need it to be, because everyone needs to come full guns blazing, like needs to be ready to take on that transition. I think from the selling standpoint, though, the more you have a trajectory and the more you can speak to all the assets that your team can do, like for me, right? Like I know a big selling point wasn't just because I was an advisor and I ran the operations and I did all X, Y, and Z at the office. It was what I was also doing outside of the office. So all of my work on councils, all of my works in the industry, right? Like no one's going to deny that that wasn't appealing for the firm that was buying us, right? Like having that presence. So if you're looking to sell, I think take a look at like yourself and how you present your firm to the industry, how you present yourself to others, right? It's a very small world. It all comes together. And so, right, like I think a huge piece of even the valuation that we got was because we had documented all of our processes and procedures.
It
that
absolutely
was an operational dream. Like, but
right.
like I feel like people may have that, but they're not speaking to it. Like work on sell yourself to clients every day. You have got to be prepared to sell yourself to a seller to be able to get the most out of the valuation, for sure.
No, I'll tell you from the buy side, it was hard and fast. You're absolutely right. So we have a deal scorecard. We go through a rigorous process of grading ourselves. A lot of that is quantitative. So growth rates, client retention risks, demographic risks, all of that is in there. But there are very important qualitative factors. And one of the most important is the strength of the G2 talent. And this is a dirty little secret, like most of these processes kick off with a 1 hour management meeting. And we have 1 hour to determine if we want to proceed in that process. The seller has 1 hour to determine if we're the right fit, but they're still selling themselves to us, just like we are to them. And if you're not putting the G2 talent front and center as part of that conversation, it is very difficult for Mike or I or the team to mark that qualitative box that the G2 is in place and that they are hunters and killers and are going to continue to drive growth versus being a servicing advisor or more of an operational team player. So you're dead right. We actually have a process. One of our friends in the industry that runs a sell-side advisory firm was talking about right now, one of his clients, there's a really strong G1 and there are 2 fabulous G2s, terrific G2s, but the G1 has a very strong personality. And he said, after the very first management meeting, I said, John Doe, you need to speak less and you need to let your G2s speak more because you're costing yourself money. And I think once he heard that message, the light bulb clicks on and it has changed the approach to his subsequent management meetings. I mean, that is crucial.
I never won the battle of the G1 speaking less, but that would have been great.
You got to cede the floor to a little bit. Yeah.
But I think, right, like even if we use a different example of being able to sell yourself in those situations, we had to know our metrics backhand and forehand, right? Like we had to be able to say we didn't have an account minimum. That was what I think most people originally in evaluation thought was a negative, right? Because we took anybody that was breathing at that point.
You had 3,000 accounts. Yeah.
3,000 accounts, right? Like but we had to be able to explain why, right? So we had to explain the growth that we had, the new households, what they turned into, and the reverse strategic approach that we took instead of starting with the head of the household that had a lot of assets and working our way down to having their kids become clients and then their grandchildren. We actually did such a great job with the grandchildren that then their parents were like, wait, you get this great service and you don't even have any money. We won them. And then they're like, and I'm financial power of attorney for our parents. So we won them back, right? So as long as you can explain it, it becomes just more like iron in your tools in your toolbox that be able to help support that. But I think you got to be prepared for that. It's not just one of these things you wake up and say, today I'm going to sell my business and not have that ready to go.
Yeah, you have to be able to tell the story.
We always talk about like the B2B conversation versus the B2C. B2C advisor bringing on a potential client. B2B is advisors talking to advisors, or the buy sell. When we're helping all of our partner firms across the country do their own M&A activity and they're having that conversation, they're trying to tell their value prop of why this advisor should join their firm. 90% of it, I was like, it wouldn't be successful if you just go in and talk about how great you are and how good of a growth you've had. That wouldn't convince another advisor to join. But what would is the power of the team. How great the team is, how great your process and procedures are, how you already have this kind of house built that they can come plug into and like, okay, and I can accelerate the growth. Lisa, I think your point is fantastic because in the selling environment, it's the same thing. Like that conversation, how you would convince another advisor to join you is very similar to what is my value prop to a buyer and why are they interested? What about your firm? And as you guys were talking, Michael, what about you? Mentally, I was going through all the deals we've done in the past. I'm like, okay, if I had a stopwatch out, tracking how much time the seller spoke about their team versus talking about them, I was thinking back, every one of them that spoke more about their team has post-close been far more successful.
I think you're anecdotally, without seeing the data, I would bet on that, Mike.
Yeah. Yeah, now I want to run the data because I'm a data nerd, but just like mentally, I'm thinking back through the deals and it checks out.
If it comes back, I didn't put that on your to-do list.
I'll do that for fun. That's what us data nerds do.
Well, Lisa, we're 50 minutes in. This has been wonderful. I think I'll just give you kudos. Sometimes, not often, but sometimes Mike and I have to guide the conversation, maybe pull a little bit more. You came ready to rock today. So I know Bert was texting you saying, don't mess it up. You didn't mess it up. This was great. Like I loved this conversation. And I think this is a conversation that's worth revisiting.
Is my life's mission. That's all I got to say.
That's right.
Well, what the audience is going to want, Michael, we need like a 9-month, 1 year, bring her back on, because now it's
where are we at?
Plans and everything. Now, how has that gone into execution? I think the audience is going to be extremely interested, Lisa, in how this works out. And
Mike, you know what that means?
We all know the answer.
You know what that means? We've said that now for a few of these really important topics. Like at some point, we're not doing this once a month. We're probably talking about bi-monthly. We're going to be releasing these episodes. So
count me in.
All right. Lisa, any final thoughts before we let you go and get on with building this?
No, I mean, I think I'm super excited to be here. You two have been tremendous in my start at Carson. And so I spend a lot of time on my M&A floor when I'm there to visit. And I love that, because I think if I've learned anything within the culture here is we're all in this together, and it's going to take you guys finding me the great G2s in offices and bringing them in. And like I said, we're going to have potentially a shortage problem. And so I know I need you guys just as much as once they're here, how we retain them and grow them and make them long-term advisors at Carson. So I think us three are intertwined very closely, but I couldn't be more excited to work with you guys and work with all the future potential listeners that are thinking of coming to Carson. I'm ready to work with you guys. So I think it's going to be super exciting.
She's even got like a call to action, Mike. Like this is more than just like, no, it's been great. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy lunch. Lisa, I'm glad you're feeling the love. Like we are thrilled to have you here. I mean, I told you, we got a lot better when you joined the team. So really excited to be your teammate. Awesome. All right, guys, this was a wonderful episode. Lisa, thanks so much for joining us today.